y'all doing? My name is Randa Stratton-Dutcher, and this is Going Dutch, a podcast that calls from my heart to yours. Thank you for coming to visit. I believe that we learn more about ourselves in the listening of others, and it is my hope that in sharing, you will hear the messages and call God is sending to you. So wherever you are, know you are loved and cared for. Take a deep breath. Let's have a chat. Welcome to the Going Dutch podcast. I have an amazing guest today, Lindsay Taylor, who runs Soul Soldier Speaks. Her mission is, it's so inspiring and very close to my heart. And she, would you say you're a counselor or a therapist? What?
Yep, I'm a licensed therapist, and then I just have a heart for helping people. So I like to coach too, and outside the therapy room as well.
Yeah, and she's writing a book. Is it almost done? Where are you at with that?
It is. We are in the final stages of editing, so it's going to be released actually on the anniversary of my son's transition on May 9th. So coming up.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Lindsay, that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah,
that's really neat. She is married. She has a few kids, 3 or 4.
4 total. Yep.
And she works at the Hope Center.
The Hope Institute. Yep.
God, man, I am just.
No, you're close. Okay, Hope Center, Hope Institute, it's all the same thing, right?
What is the Hope Institute? And so will you talk about that for a moment? You mind talking about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's really, really neat because I'm going to back up for just a minute to how it came about in Arizona, because it is kind of the first of its kind type of a suicide treatment center. Nothing else exists like this. Mm-hmm. And it's rather new, especially to Arizona. So I worked at the school district here locally in Arizona, Chandler Unified School District. And we had a string of just so tragically suicides several years ago. And after a few of them, the director of counseling and social services, she went desperately searching for a solution. Like, how do we help this? Like, we just felt so like we had nowhere to send families and kids when they were struggling with thoughts of suicide. And so she ended up coming across a guy named Dr. David Jobs. He developed this therapeutic model called CAMS. It's a mouthful. It stands for Collaborative Assessment and Management of Suicidality. So she found him, and he somehow, he's a busy man. He's a researcher. He's got a lot going. Somehow read her email and ended up just hearing her cry and connected her with Dr. Derek Lee, who is the founder of the Hope Institute. So that's how the Hope Institute came to Arizona. So it's in partnership with the Chandler Unified School District, but last summer we were able to open it up to the whole community so we can serve all of Arizona essentially, because we can do telehealth. So the Hope Institute, it is, I like to say it's a center that brings hope to individuals struggling with thoughts of suicide. So that is our sole specialty. That's all we treat there. So we don't do any other just like ongoing general counseling. So we are specific to that. So we use the model CAMS. And what CAMS does is it helps us identify the client's drivers. So that's what's leading the client to have suicidal thoughts. And then we're basing our whole treatment plan around that. And that's what we're focusing treatment on, is treating what's leading the person to experience that suicidality. Since we're just focusing on that piece, we're short term. So on average, clients are in our program 6 weeks, but could be a little less, could be a little more. That's just the average. And then we help link clients, families, kids, whoever we're treating, to ongoing therapeutic services as needed. So we call them indirect drivers. So any underlying struggles, maybe that's ongoing depression, anxiety, family conflict, grief, whatever it might be that's underlying, but not directly related to the suicidality, then we refer to the ongoing counseling piece. So we'll also connect families to that. We offer the mix of individual counseling and then also DBT group skills. DBT is the other therapy that we use quite a bit in the Hope Institute model. That stands for dialectical behavioral therapy. And really with that, it covers 4 main elements: mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and then interpersonal effectiveness, which is just how to have healthy communication and relationships. Those 2 therapeutic modalities are 2 of the 4 evidence-based models for treating individuals with thoughts of suicide. So they're very effective for that population. So yeah, the Hope Institute is awesome. Dr. Derek Lee's amazing, the founder. He's a researcher in the field, so he's a wealth of knowledge. He's been doing this for many years. He opened the first office in Ohio, which is where he's located, back in 2020, actually. So he's been doing this since 2008. And he had his own counseling practice. And then in 2020, when we saw a rise in these issues, his practice filled up. And he's like, I can't have suicidal individuals on a wait list. So that's actually how the Hope Institute was born, was to be that intermediate. We get people in within 24 business hours. So it's also, very quickly to get people in, which is what you need when somebody's in crisis, right? And so, he developed that model to make it, we're just going to focus on the suicide treatment in this, in the Hope Institute Center, and then we can refer to the ongoing. So it's a little bit about the Hope Institute.
Wow. I can tell just how passionate you are and how much you love your job.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Which I know you've had a couple of things that have led to Soul Soldier. So now tell everybody about Soul Soldier Speaks.
Yeah. So Soul Soldier Speaks is the name of my podcast. And the name of my book is called The Rise of a Soul Soldier. So it's all similar theme. So I unfortunately have faced a lot of loss, and 2 significant losses close to me to suicide specifically. So in 2018, I lost a close friend to suicide. And then in May of 2021, so May 2nd of 2021, I worked at a school, like I said at the time, and a student that I had worked with very closely with, he died by suicide. So that really rocked our community, like I said. And then exactly 7 days later, I lost my son to a fentanyl overdose on May 9th, 2021. So it has been a journey of really God meeting me in my pain in the most profound way and showing me that there is purpose to the pain. There's a whole significance with a rainbow. And really what that has taught me is that, there's always beauty beyond the storm. Sometimes when we're stuck in our storm and the darkness of life, we can't see the light, we can't see the beauty, but I have learned that there is beauty beyond the storm and that there is light beyond the darkness. And so, so the Rise of a Soul Soldier was really just me gathering strength to continue to return to the battleground every single day. So even when I was going through my own grief, right, my own pain and my own darkness, I never stopped, going and helping people, and ended up moving over to the Hope Institute to sit with individuals every day struggling with thoughts of suicide. And so I had this moment in my coaching session with Kira, who's our business coach, where she had said to me, she said, you know what, Lindsay, she said, you could have, run away from all this, turned to drugs yourself. You could have, done all these different things. And she's like, instead, you continue to return to the battlefield and sit with people in their darkness, even when you were in your own. And it really, I had this moment of whoosh, it brought me into I felt like God speaking to my soul, yes, that's your purpose. You're here to be on the battleground, but to bring light and love and hope to those dark spaces. So that's how the Soul Soldier came about. So I'm really passionate about helping individuals struggling with thoughts of suicide, addiction, grief, and then just life's deepest challenges, people who are in the deepest depths of struggle and darkness. That's just what my heart beats for, is bringing light and hope and love to those spaces.
Wow. Just taking a moment to really bring to mind how everyone wants to help someone else, but suicide ideation is really, really hard. And if you're in your own darkness, it's really hard to help other people. It's hard to be a stand for other people. And gosh, you're like a 4-star colonel. And the fact that you can stand in that and the experiences you've had, and
Yeah.
And
I always say, I think it's God's gift that he gave me, right? Like it's bigger than me. This is so much bigger than me. It's God, you know what I mean? But he just gave me this gift to be able to sit in that. But thank you for saying that because
But I agree. I agree it's God. And you continue to say, okay, I'll go. I will go. I will go. And you continue to show up. And that is the true mark of a very decorated soldier, colonel, battlefield attendant. I don't know, however you want to say, but thank you. Thank you for continuing to stand in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, I said this, I think I wrote this in my book. I was thinking, was it something I said in coaching session or in my book? I talk about how there's times that I wanted to give up, right? Like there's times that it gets heavy. Every soldier wants to quit, like at some point but there's just this relentless, honestly, I think it's just my soul's work, you know what I mean? And so there's anytime I get to that spot of like, oh, this is too hard. I want to give up. I am reminded of, no, like this speaks to my soul on the deepest level. And so,
you are persistent. You're persistent. Absolutely. My collaboration book that I wrote, my chapter is about suicide ideation and a little bit about my journey with that. And what I've learned myself about that is when I'm not doing what I absolutely love, or when I feel like it's not possible for me to be the things that I want to be, or I feel, what's the use? Like that's when those thoughts start to come in.
Yes.
And so the minute and also, I don't know, I don't mean that I need all the attention, but I need to be seen. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
we all do.
I need to share and I need to be seen. And if I share and I can't be seen, or if I can't share or be seen, like it's just, and then there's this other part of comparison, which, what's that phrase? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Thief of
But
joy.
I think, but so is perfectionism. So it like kind of goes hand in hand. Like I have to be perfect, or I'm not as good as so-and-so. And honestly, being in this business program that we're in right now has really brought that to the surface, but also at the same time, it's like a dual conversation. Like I hear the thoughts of, you're not like so-and-so, you can't do what so-and-so's doing, you're never going to get there. But also the other thought at the same time is, this is showing you what's holding you back. None of this is true. None of this is true. Run your own race. You have your own things. And so it's been really interesting, in that, in the last month, I just haven't had really dark spaces. It's been really, really fascinating.
It feels like you're maybe embracing in the therapy world, in dialectical behavioral therapy, we call it dialectics. It's this idea that two things that seem opposing can both be true. And so like even holding space for that. Like, I struggle with these and also, right? You just kept saying, and also, And so that's really beautiful. And also tapping into you're like, when I'm doing things I don't like, that's what drains me and leads me to that place. And so it seems like you're tapping more into like just owning, doing the work that you love, which is huge.
Yeah. And accepting the things that I need to do because I'm a mom and I have a husband and a house and animals. Like those things have to be taken care of, whether I like it or not. Like having acceptance for, okay, I'm going to take care of this. And I get to make space for this other side of me, singing or podcasting or sharing messages. So,
right. You got to do life. You're always going to do some things you don't like to do. But it's like, if that's really the main focus and you really are tapped into your soul's work, I think that's what helps a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Tell everyone about the programs that you are starting.
Yeah. So launching the book, like I said, May 9th. I just started the podcast, Soul Soldier Speaks.
Yeah. Please go listen to it. Like I listened to the first episode. It's so good. So good.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am still in this in between. And Randa, I think we can relate on this where I'm not entirely sure what this next chapter has in store for me. So I am currently I'm the clinical director at the Hope Institute. I have made the very, very difficult, but I know right decision to step away from that position. So I will be leaving at the end of May, the Hope Institute. It'll be in great hands with the new clinical director. I work with her now and she's amazing. I feel like what I want to do is so much way more beyond those four walls, right? That I work within in the therapy room. And I think there's a time and a place for therapy and the work we do. I full-heartedly believe in at the Hope Institute. But for me and speaking to my soul's work, I just feel like I'm meant to be out there and doing more beyond the walls of the therapy room. So what that looks like, I'm not entirely sure yet. I am partnering with our friend Carissa. We are starting a company called the Empowered Mother Collective. And we're offering a course coming up called the Peaceful Mother course. A lot of my journey too has been evolving and growing as a mother and getting it all wrong, and then learning how to. I always say Alex, the one we lost, was my greatest teacher, and so I'm also very passionate about working with parents because I genuinely believe, and this is Carissa's message big time, that when we heal as mothers or as parents, we heal generations and ultimately our communities, right? And so when we're talking about what is the root of these issues that we face with like addiction and suicidal ideation, some of those things. I mean, at the root, it's like a lack of connection and belonging. And sometimes that's within ourselves and then with others. And we have these wounds a lot of times. Even if we had great parents, you're not ever going to have a perfect parent. Let's be honest. None of us are going to be perfect, but there's things that we struggle with. And so the more that you can heal as a parent, the better off, our future generations are going to be, and ultimately our communities. So and just in motherhood, releasing the guilt and all the things that come with it. So I am passionate about that as well. So I'm partnering, and that's Carissa's work. You got to check out her work as well. She's the Mothering Medium on Instagram. But so we are starting that this month, actually, March 10th. So next Monday, we're starting that course. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yes. And then I plan to do, there's a framework in my book called the Rise and Rewrite process, where it's helping people to tap into what are their pain points and what is the storyline that they've created around those pain points, and helping them to rewrite that story and tap into the truth. Because a lot of times I think too, when we struggle with suicidal ideation and those things, we're holding on to these illusions, right? Of like, I'm not good enough, like whatever we tell ourselves, these illusions that aren't true, these lies. And so I plan to get a workshop going on that, but I have nothing set in stone yet in that. So I'm really just focused on getting this book out, getting the podcast up and going, doing this course with Carissa, and then seeing where the path takes me from there.
Wow. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
I had another question.
My heart, I was going to say one other thing. I'm going to start some volunteering in a volunteering capacity, working in the prisons. I would also say at like my heart at its like deepest core, my soul at its deepest core, really beats for people that are hurting the most. And the people that society have written off. And so I have a deep passion for those in prison because they've been to the deepest depths of darkness, right? And so my goal is to also bring love and light to those spaces. So I'm going to start doing some volunteering, and I see myself doing some work within the prisons, or even, some sort of programming, helping them transition out. So.
Oh, that's amazing, Lindsay. Wow. You've got a lot slated. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Something that I think Kira said yesterday, it's like, she said, and maybe this will ring true to you. She's like, we are taking this very slowly because it's important that we're laying this foundation so solid. And I think that you're doing that. And it's hard. I think the one thing that is hard is some people in our group are like have very established businesses. And so it's like so easy to be like, ugh, they're already like 10 steps ahead of me. But it's like, no, this is a perfect place for us to start. Perfect place.
Totally. There goes the comparison thing again, right? Like we're so hardwired as humans to do that. And we just have to honor our own unique journeys. Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. if you could tell a mom of a child right now that is struggling with suicide ideation or says that they just can't handle it, but they keep trucking, what would you tell a mom or a dad? Like 2 things they could do every day to support that child.
Oh, this is so good. So I want to say at the forefront of all of it has to be love, right? So love for yourself every day and love for your child. And I know that seems so basic, but I think as parents, we often, when our kids are struggling, at least I can speak for myself, I know that I often felt like, where did I go wrong? Or, I blamed myself, shamed myself, right? Like or just took it on, like, what can I do better? Like I felt I had so much weight and responsibility in it. And there was a moment when Alex was just really struggling. And I had this realization that all I can control is myself. And so I ended up really working on surrender, what's beyond my control. And what I learned is that I can focus on how I respond, what I do, what I say, how I show up. And so, again, when I started to give myself grace, so that's what I would say, there needs to be grace and love for yourself and for your child through this whole process. Because it's easy to be hard on ourselves. And then it's also easy to be hard on our kids. I think that it's with the good intentions, but sometimes when our kids are struggling with that, we react out of fear. Maybe we discredit. I see that a lot, like, oh, they're just doing it for attention. I mean, I hear all these various things, and I think parents mean well, they just don't know how to respond or what to do or what to say. The best thing you can do is just be there with them in this battle. And show them love, show them grace. And then the same is for yourself, because we ultimately project, onto our kids how we're feeling. And so when I as a parent, when I focused on what I could control, and I had to ultimately surrender what was beyond my control, which some of the decisions Alex was making, I didn't have control over. I switched my mindset from control to influence. So parents here, you have influence. So surrender doesn't mean give up. It means focus your efforts and your energy on what you have within your control, and then you have influence. And so the way that you're communicating with your child, apologizing when you get things wrong, right? Like knowing that you're modeling for them. So that's the influence piece. And just, it also does take sometimes when you're supporting somebody struggling with this, boundaries. I love you. And this is more for addiction, but I can't help you until you get help until you're ready for help. Right. And so I want to be there for you. I want to help you. And they have to be a willing participant,
That distinction between control and influence, that just like pierced my heart, because I grew up in like a very controlled environment, very strict environment. And so that's how I parented my first 3 kids, was so strict, so regimented.
Me too.
So much expectation. And then these last 2, I feel like they're just like willy-nilly, but at the same time, I feel like there is more influence in some way, because I'm not like, you will do it my way, or you will walk the plank type of attitude,
Yes.
So gosh, parenting is just, my dad always said parenting is just a guilt trip, but
it is.
It's like such a learning experience that you can't have. I wholeheartedly respect those that are parents to animals or can't have children or whatever, but parenting kids, actual humans, is something else.
Yeah. And aside from that love and grace piece, right, and focusing on influence versus control, I think those are huge. Nervous system regulation, like parents, like we have to regulate our own nervous systems, do the things, whatever that is, meditation, cold plunging saunas, breath work, all those things are amazing, exercise. But we have to, in order to show up for our child who's struggling, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our own nervous system. So I think that's another huge thing for parents.
Yeah. I would say one more thing, if I could add, is your parents don't make themselves wrong. And I think you did kind of say that, but like
Yes.
That is something I have to remind myself of. When my first two boys were going to school, my first boy was like ADHD all over the place. Every day I'm getting a call from the teacher. He did this, he did that. The next kid goes to school. Oh my gosh, I just love this boy so much. And he's the cutest. And oh, he's just the sweetest. On and on. What did you do to raise him to be so kind? And I'm like, well, he actually came that way, and I cannot take credit for that or blame for the other, because they just all come differently.
Oh, Randa, I am so glad you say that.
So as my kids have had their struggles, like my instant response, it is usually fear. Like either I did something wrong or they did something wrong, but then the next reaction, I've learned to slow my thoughts. The next reaction is, okay, is this true for them? And I just need to listen. But it's hard. It's hard. And
so
then
hard.
Taking my own timeouts. I'm taking a 10-minute timeout. I'll come talk to you in a few minutes.
Yes. Oh, and I love that you said listening to them. That's huge. Our children need to be heard and seen. So that's huge. And I love that you point out, we've had the same thing. I have one girl who is just the star student, perfect. She's the only one that, every conference we go to, oh, she's, so wonderful. And, the boys, they were on the reward system because they couldn't sit still, all the things, right? And her teacher, over the years, we've had some of the teachers praise us for what we're doing. We had a foster kiddo at one point, and the teacher was praising us. And I'm like, listen, even our foster kiddo, she obviously had lots of stuff in her background, and she just had such a good demeanor and a good personality. And our kids are ultimately born as their own souls, their own people. Yeah. And yes, going back to that piece, we have influence. We do. Your environment influences you. But at the end of the day, your kid is their own person. And so, you could do all of our kids, all four of them, very different. And they came from the same home, right? So I love that you point that out.
It's hard to remember sometimes, but that is like one thing that I share with anybody whenever I can. You can't take blame or credit for your kids. You're a good mom, no matter what. You're still trying, you're still caring. And gosh, if your kids didn't live on catch up today and they have to choose, I mean, that's a litmus in some circles. So you're doing good.
Yep. And you're the perfect parent for the perfect parent for your kid. Yep. That's huge.
Yeah. Yep. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Oh, man, I just appreciate this conversation because I think there's so many people that sit, and I felt this way, when Alex was struggling. Here I am working with kids and teens and families struggling with very similar issues that I am dealing with at home. Yeah. So I knew I wasn't alone, like in my, I knew in my conscious mind that I wasn't alone, but I felt oftentimes like so lonely in my feelings surrounding it. Yeah. And so I think that it's just so important that people know that we have these conversations, that they know that you're not alone. And all these struggles that we face as humans and as parents, they're shared struggles are part of our shared humanity. So I just want people to know that, that we see you, we sit with you, we understand, and that if you need help, there's always help and hope out there. And I think it can be hard to find sometimes, like the system can be overwhelming to navigate, but, I would love for people to reach out. If I can't help personally, I will connect them with help. It's my soul's work. And I just want, to make sure that we don't continue to lose lives to things that are ultimately preventable, like suicide and overdose and that sort of thing. So,
Well, keep at it. We need people like you. And do you want to share your Instagram is
Soul Soldier? Yes, it is _soul_soldier. Yep.
Okay. And anything else, links to your and Carissa's March 10th launch, please send me that, and anything else.
Okay. Yeah. If you guys get on my Instagram, you'll see the stuff posted on there, and then I'll send it to you as well for the show notes. But I have a website and then the podcast. So you can find me many different ways. Okay.
All of that. Okay. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you, Randa. Appreciate you having me on.
Friends, thank you again for joining me. I hope you heard a message for your heart today, and that you'll come back again soon. Follow along on Instagram at Perfectly Imperfect Randa. In the words of my grandpa Stratton, do you know how great you is? Happy trails to you. And lots of love, my friends.